been a little while since we painted, hasn't it? Yeah, I guess it has. Things have been getting sidetracked. I've had a lot of stuff going on, so sometimes it feels difficult to really get back in the swing of things. But, you know, we're here now. We might as well refresh the palette a little bit. We've got enough. Oh yeah, we got enough ultramarine there. That ultramarine is still wet. Big old pile of ultramarine. That doesn't dry for a while. Might need some alizarin crimson though. Well, yeah, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Like on my method of checking to see if it was still wet is to literally just touch it. See what it feels like. There's my alizarin crimson. I was looking for that. I was looking at my big pile of stuff over there and saying to myself, hey, where'd it go? Unfortunately, alizarin crimson is one of those colors that's never too far behind. It is most of what we're going to need. I'm sure we're going to add some things as we go, but we always got to start with the three big ones. Well, got a few things to continue here. Actually, some of the proportions over here are not that bad. I think we're going to get it started, though, with a little bit of cadmium red light, of all things. I never thought I'd say that, especially after how little we've used cadmium red light so far, but hey, it's that. When you're painting, sometimes weird things happen. A lot of weird things happen when you're painting. A lot of times it's just the things you least expect. Okay, let's try, I'm already angling to get some Prussian blue in here. Just, you know, I should have seen it coming. It's like I never put the color on the palette until I absolutely have to have it. And it's probably because the color just dries so fast, so if you don't need it, it's just wasting it. But people don't realize that Prussian blue dries really, really fast. Like, even if you stick it in a freezer, which is a pretty common way of keeping the paint from drying too fast, it still dries very fast. If you didn't know that, that's something that a lot of people will do, is they'll stick their colors in the freezer to keep the paint from oxidizing. Got a little hair in my paint here. Can't have that, guys. Nah, that ain't no good. I mean, I guess having a hair in the paint isn't the end of the world, but I mean, I don't really want hair in my paint. If I want texture in my paint, it's going to be because I want to introduce it. Man, we still got hair in here. Where are we getting all this hair from? Must have brushed my hair while I was handling my palette or something. I don't know. It's weird. So, of the two colors, cadmium red light and Prussian blue is technically the stronger of the two. But it really depends on the brand, because sometimes cadmium red light will be almost exactly as strong as Prussian blue is. It really depends, because if you use a less expensive brand, almost definitely the Prussian blue is going to be stronger, because a lot of these budget brands will dilute the paint a little bit till the cadmium is almost non-existent in the paint. So be aware of that if you ever start using a budget brand. Not that there's bad budget brands. I mean, there's good budget brands that use cadmium colors. Cotman, not Cotman, what am I saying? It's a watercolor brand. Winton, that's the name of it. Why did I have such a hard time thinking of that? Winton uses cadmium colors. Some cadmium colors, not a lot. And then Van Gogh actually uses quite a few of them, and so does Classico. Hard to say which one's the best, but I've done some good work with Classico. I had a friend a while back that talked smack about Classico. He said no self-respecting artist would use Classico. And I'm just like, well, I don't know. I did a painting with Classico, entered it in a contest, and did pretty okay for myself. I didn't win, but got like second place or something. Yeah. So it's not like Classico's all bad. I don't think, but hey, what do I know? Alright, let's try a little something here, guys. I whipped up a color with a little cadmium red light, a little Prussian blue, a little cadmium yellow, and we're just going to take this color like right there. It's a very fleshy color, isn't it? Like, kind of. Yeah, kind of. And then we're going to bring it all the way down to about right here. Okay. And then I have a little bit of a violet color that's here that might actually still be useful for what we want to do next. So we'll just hold on to that. Yeah, it's not so bad. I might go ahead and just bring this up in here. I don't know. Mark where I think that next color is going to be. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because we don't want to like skip ahead in the painting or anything. We want you guys to be able to see what's going on. That's the idea here. Like, if you guys can't see what I'm doing, why are we here, right? Yeah, that's a fair question. I'm going to assume that everyone who's here watching this actually wants to see some painting or / hear some painting. Of course, with oil painting, it's not that many noises by comparison to, say, watercolor. Well, actually, there's a fair amount of noise in oil painting. Let's be serious here. There's a fair amount of noise. Okay, I think I almost got that color just the way I want it. There's like, what we're doing here is we're painting a little bit of we're painting a pillowcase, right? And the pillowcase is like one of these rainbow color pillowcases where it's done in pastel colors, and it's odd looking, admittedly. Anytime you have a rainbow, it's always kind of a challenge to deal with. But you know, if ever were, excuse me, I'm having a hard time talking today. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and just throw a little bit of that violet color right in there. Because you know what? A lot of the time, the best shadow color you can muster is frequently the complement of the color that you've been painting with. Now, that's not to say that it's always going to be the right shadow color, because a lot of times there'll be like light reflected in there. Like in this case, I don't know, maybe we'll have a little bit more red in there, because the skin is kind of getting reflected in this part, so maybe we want to make that a little bit redder along the way. Yeah. Just like that, and that's looking pretty intense, admittedly. Might want to dull that down a little bit with a little bit more of an orangey color. I don't know, let's throw a little bit cadmium in there. Cadmium yellow, excuse me. Just saying cadmium doesn't really narrow things down, does it? So, I think most of the time I have my head on straight, but sometimes I gotta remind myself that you guys can't see inside my head. And you guys don't necessarily know what I'm thinking. So I have to remind myself, hey, how about we spell it out for everyone at home? Okay, so that's a little bit more of an ochre-ish color. That's already looking pretty good. And it's important that we use like the cadmium yellow to do that, not just throw some yellow ochre in, as tempting as that is, because the reason for that is that we want to maintain our color harmony, and if we start throwing a foreign color in there like yellow ochre, it's just going to throw everything off, and we don't want to have that. Okay, let's throw like one more little thing down here, and then I think minus maybe a little something right here, just to indicate another fold. Boy, that's a little bit of a funky looking fold, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. Well, we're just going to do the best we can. Yeah, we'll just do the best we can on this. Can't go too crazy. Like I say, you can always refine things later, so as long as you get the proportions somewhere in the ballpark, you're good. Alright, so we could wipe off our knife. I think I'm going to keep it going for right now. I'm going to lay into some sap green real quick. Yeah, let's get ourselves a little bit of that sap green color, guys. And let's see what we can whip up here. There's a little bit of a color right behind what we just painted, and I'm going to use my cadmium yellow deep with just a smidge. We need some sap green on this. A little more sap green. I thought I could salvage some of what I had, but that ain't happening. Nah, sap green's another one of those colors that dries really fast because there's a phthalo in it. And phthalo is, well, it's one of the most widely used greens. It's the most widely used green. We'll get down to it. There's no green color that's used quite as much as phthalo is. So, sometimes I say I don't use a lot of phthalos, and I don't, but I still use a color that has phthalo green in it because it's not really a good option, and why would I want another option? Because the phthalo with the sap green with the phthalo just works so well. Pretty much every convenience green that they have out there. If you don't know what a convenience color is, a convenience color is a tube of paint that has several colors mixed together to make a new color, as opposed to a single pigment color, where that means that the paint inside only has one color in it. One color. A convenience color has multiple colors. So say this, what I'm using, the sap green, is a mix of phthalo green, an aerolite yellow, and I don't know how to pronounce this, it's like Paranone orange or something. It's a very unique sap green mix that I've been using for years, and I've never really seen a brand do another sap green like this. It's one of the more vibrant sap greens I think I've ever seen, and it's one that I've been using ever since I got this paint from Permaba a while back. I kind of wish that there was a more vibrant green like this in watercolors, because I've been looking for a green that's quite as vibrant as the one that I use. It's like I like the color to be vibrant but not too vibrant, if that makes sense. Yeah, like I like Viridian. I like cobalt green better than I like Viridian. And then I like sap green. Those are the two green colors I use. I don't really use anything else. I tried using phthalo green a while back, but I don't know. Phthalo green's okay, I guess. It's just, it feels like a bit much at times. It's hard to... I guess if push came to shove and it was the only green color I could use, I guess I'd be okay with it. I would get over it, is what I'm saying. Do I necessarily want to get over it? Nah, there's other greens I'd rather be using. Now, I say I like cobalt green, but I don't have cobalt green on here. That's because Permaba didn't have a cobalt. Excuse me, can't talk right. Permaba didn't have a cobalt green, so that kind of limits what I could choose. Because I was working with the brand at the time, and they were like, "Hey, let us know what colors you like, so we can maybe construct a palette, and you can start helping to promote our brand and all that." So I told them, and yeah, sure enough, they got me my colors. And heck, I sure appreciated it. But I had to work with what they had, because it wasn't like they were going to start manufacturing new colors just for me. If only, right? Hey, if there's anyone out there that has that kind of pull, I'm impressed. Alright, I'm going to take something with a little bit of Prussian blue and Viridian, and we're going to brush this in. I think this might be the best color. We haven't really used that much Viridian, you know that? Not really. This is going to be wild to see some Viridian on the palette, or excuse me, on the painting. not just on the palette, because I've been using Viridian sporadically. I think the reason I use Viridian sporadically is because, well, a lot like cobalt green, it's one of those colors that just doesn't really mix that well with anything. Well, Viridian mixes well. Let me phrase that better. Viridian mixes pretty well with stuff. It's just a very weak color. Whereas cobalt green doesn't really do any mixing. It kind of just exists all by itself. It can be mixed, but it mixes a lot better in, say, oil paint than it does in watercolor paint, where I tend to use it a little bit more frequently. But I've kind of taken to using cobalt green more and more you know, over the years. But right now I'm using Viridian because, well, it seems a shame to have so many tubes of it lying around. There's nothing really wrong with Viridian. Like, if you have to pick between a cobalt green and a Viridian, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I think. More people will probably pick Viridian because I think it's marginally stronger. But it just depends on the cobalt green. Alright, so that's a pretty decent color. I think I'm going to try something with a little... Ooh, let's try something with a little Viridian and yellow. Ooh, boy, this is going to be something. Let's try it out and see how it goes. We'll take a little cadmium yellow here, put a little bit of Viridian in this, and we'll have a pretty vibrant color right off the bat there. That's what you get when you mix Viridian and cadmium yellow. And it's a pretty nice color, right? But I need that to be a little bit more yellowish. Nah, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's very vibrant, isn't it? Yeah. It's nice. I like it. I like it a lot, actually. The palette I use is specifically designed to enhance the warm side of the spectrum, but even so, I still have a selection of colors here that enable me to get some pretty vibrant, cool colors, I guess you call them. Yeah, pretty vibrant, cool colors. I'm always hesitant to go ahead with the cool and warm labels that people attach to colors because I think they're overused, but it's still useful as a descriptor for them, right? Actually is a pretty good color. Let's run with that. Yeah, this is a very nice lemony tone that I picked up here with the Viridian and the cadmium yellow. Let's see what it looks like once we put it in the painting, guys. Oh man, that is kind of nice. Yeah, that's real nice. So as I was saying, I don't like necessarily thinking of things in terms of warm and cool, but when I do, I tend to think of it very broadly. Like, I don't divide things into a warm red or a cool red or anything like that. And that's what a lot of people try to do, is try to compartmentalize groups of colors that way. And I don't like it because, in my mind, it's red. It's always going to be warm, no matter how you slice it. Or blue. What do you mean warm blue? It's blue. It's always cool. Because people will try to categorize a warm blue versus a cool blue, and then they'll get into an argument over what a cool blue is or a warm blue and stuff like that. And it's silly. It's absolutely ridiculous. Because it's blue. It is irrefutably cool by its very nature. Now, the thing where the warm and cool labels get a little dicey is when you start getting near the violet and green end of the spectrum, specifically the red violets and the yellow greens. That's when the line gets blurred. So they could kind of go either way, cool or warm. So just a little FYI there. But I don't know, I think it's ridiculous to try to split a yellow into a cool yellow or a warm yellow. It's yellow. Cool red or warm red. It's red. Next thing you know, you're going to be telling me about a cool orange or a warm orange. It's ridiculous. That guy should know I've been painting for years without subscribing to that nonsense. Look what you got me. Well, let's not toot my own horn too much. I mean, I'm not that famous of a painter. If only, right? Yeah, maybe one of these days. Maybe one of these days we'll be a little bit more famous than we are right now. But you know what? That's just my 2 cents. Alright, this is probably fine. I'm just kind of overdoing it on color as usual. I got a habit. I got a habit of doing that. Alright, there's going to be like a pillow right here, and I'm going to start things off with a little ultramarine and alizarin crimson. I guess the goal of mixing colors is to always try to take the path of least resistance to where you want to go. And what I mean by that is you want to try and find the shortest distance to mixing the target color that you're looking for. So if you could do it in 2 colors, that's awesome. That is the best case scenario. But it's also probably not going to happen. So in reality, you're probably going to mix like 3 colors. But you also want to consider that the more colors you get in the mix, the more muddy the mixture will get, for one, but also the less light, the less, I keep saying the less light fast it will be. And that's something I don't think a lot of artists really consider, is just how light fast their mixes are necessarily going to be. I try to think about it as much as I can. I try to use colors that I think are going to be durable enough. But at the end of the day, you are going to run into some issues with light fatness. Oh man. Light fastness if you just, one, use too many colors that are really not that permanent. Like the least permanent color that you want to have on your palette, you probably only want one of these. Alizarin crimson tends to be very, very impermanent in terms of colors, but if you don't paint with too many of those, if you only have like alizarin crimson, it's not so bad. But alizarin crimson does have a habit of fading over time. That said, there's a lot of paintings out there where alizarin crimson is still holding steady, so it just depends on how you treat the painting over time. There's all kinds of guys who'll tell you, well, I haven't had any problems with the color, you know. And they're fair to chime in, because maybe they haven't. Okay. I'm getting a little ridiculous with this mix here. I feel like I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to nail this blue down when I've already pretty much got it. Here, let's throw down the dark color first. Technically when you're oil painting, you want to paint the dark color first and then paint the light on top. That's usually how oil painting is supposed to go. Is that the way it always goes? Well, I don't know about that, but as I say, rules oftentimes are meant to be broken. Okay. Let's just capture the curve right in here. Let's also maybe, I don't know, shape this pillow a little bit. Because right now, things are a little bit, I don't know. Just needs a little extra something in there. A little extra something over in here too. That should be pretty adequate, I think. Yeah. We don't want to spend too much time on it, but we'll spend just a small amount of time. I say we don't want to spend a lot of time on it because it's not the focal point of the painting, and overdoing it is not really in our best interest. Okay. Alright, I think I've got something I can work with here. Pretty much what I did was I just painted the dark color and then I added some white to it, which, I don't know. These days I'm kind of looking at that and thinking, boy, we need some more complement in there. And maybe in the background we need a little bit, well, actually the yellow I think is going to make this vibrate a little bit because we add a little bit of the yellow in the background there, and it's going to make it look real nice. So let's add just a little something down here, or over here. Okay. And you see how that kind of works? And that's pretty decent. That's pretty okay. That is about the tone that we're looking for. Now over here, we're just going to line that a little bit. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. And I don't know. I don't know if the yellow is necessarily vibrating wholesale against the blue, but they don't look bad together. Yeah, that's pretty okay. I'm obsessing over things. Yeah, it's what you do when you do this for a while. You just, you can't stop thinking about things like that, and it drives you a little bit crazy at times. Ooh. Alright, I'm going to take a little bit of the cadmium yellow and some white, and we're going to mix in a pretty light beige color. Yeah, just a very light beige color. So I'm going to neutralize it with some of the Prussian blue and cadmium red light that I was using earlier. And then I think another touch of white will do the trick here. See how that looks against everything. That's not bad. That's not bad. I'm going to want to wipe my brush off a little bit because it is getting a smidge blue, and I don't want this paint to be too blue when I start painting it. Otherwise, it's going to not look so good. That's a mild way of putting it. Kind of looks very similar to the color we just painted, doesn't it? A little bit. Okay. Yeah, this is alright. This color ain't bad at all. Okay. Whew. And you know what? We've got that color again right down here, so let's just sneak it in. There's going to be a weird little curve right there. I don't know how to describe it, but it kind of just snakes in, and hey, we're going to snake with it. right to about there. And ending right about with a little curve like that. That's fine. Whew. This is about, oh, I don't know, this is almost halfway down this particular grid square. So, there. That's fine. Let's throw some of this color back on the palette. Some of this is getting a little intense. A little intense. Let's take a little bit of Prussian blue and add more of that cadmium red light to the mix. And make sure that things are dark enough here. I want this to be kind of a grayish tone. That's what I'm looking for right here. Something that's a little bit gray. Maybe a hint of violet to it, but not too much. I just mostly want it to be gray. Now, we can't have all of our bright colors without having a little bit of a dark color here and there, or a color that just isn't as vibrant. You gotta have those passages where maybe they're not as exciting, but they still do a lot for the painting. Once I have the base color in here, I've been thinking about going in with, once I have the building blocks done, I guess I could say, I've been thinking about going in with some additional work and adding just little daubs of complementary colors to shadows and stuff like that. Just, try to make the painting a little bit more vibrant. Maybe add a few more visual complements along the way to make various colors pop out. Because there's mixing complements, like I tell you, and visual complements. And every time I've put a color against a visual complement, it's just made it kind of explode. And you can kind of see that happening throughout this painting, that every time we have a visual complement, well, it works pretty good. And it's not something that I think a lot of artists put that much thought into. Which is too bad, because I think it's a curious artistic technique. Guys, I'm going to shorten this thing right here. I'm going to reel it back in because I think I got it a little too far over there. Just want to take some of that mix of the Viridian and the Prussian blue and cover some of that up. Sometimes easier said than done, but we got it done all right. Okay. I need a little bit more cadmium red light, guys. There's my cadmium red. I don't know, the one that I've been using is the stuff on the palette is getting a little dry, so we need to add a little something extra. It's nice that we're starting to use a little bit more of the cadmium red light here, because cadmium red light is one of those colors that I don't think as many people use it. It seems like every time I talk to an artist, or every time I read about an artist, they're always using a cadmium red medium. And I think the conventional knowledge is that a cadmium red medium, a cadmium orange, and a cadmium yellow will get you all the range of colors that you want, or the range of warm colors, at least on that spectrum of the color wheel. When in reality, the brightest colors that are available in material paints range from a medium cadmium yellow to a deep cadmium yellow to cadmium red light. And then, at least if you're talking about cadmium colors and stuff. And then whatever you get from that, you can also supplement it with an alizarin crimson color if you want. Like, if you mix alizarin crimson with cadmium red light, you'll pretty much get all the colors that you could possibly ask for. All the red colors, that is. But I supplement my cadmium colors with a cadmium red medium just because it's easier than trying to finagle some things. What can I say? Alright, I mixed a little bit of cadmium red light with cadmium yellow deep, added some Prussian blue, and we've got a nice earthy brown here. I think it's going to be very, very attractive. I never really, well, I always subscribed to the same line of thinking when I started out. That if I use a cadmium orange, a cadmium yellow, a cadmium red, I got my bases covered. But then I started reading more and more about material paints and learning more and more about mixing costs and stuff like that and chroma, and eventually I learned that, God, I've been approaching this, I wouldn't say all wrong, but I could be doing this differently. And I could probably be doing this better. So, I altered my palette to get the job done and start doing that. Because I didn't want to just leave stuff on the table, so to speak. I was thinking to myself at the time, God, think of all the wonderful creations, all the wonderful mixes, all the wonderful colors we're just leaving on the table because, I'm beating my head against a wall trying to get this color right. And I'm not using the right colors to begin with. That's what it feels like. It's a weird feeling. Okay, we got a little bit of a burgundy color here. This is some alizarin crimson. I've been thinking about getting myself back into watercolor painting sometime in the very near future. I've kind of wanted to do it for a while, but I haven't found it in me to start doing it like on camera quite yet. Seems like the watercolor stuff that I did post wasn't that popular. Just too bad because, watercolor painting is very exciting, I think. Watercolor painting is one of my great loves in life, I would say. And I've been doing it for, a long time, haven't I? Yeah, I guess I kind of have. I started doing some watercolor painting back. I've always done watercolor painting, but I haven't taken it all that seriously. Well, I didn't take it all that seriously up until probably 2014, I want to say. Something like that. And I said to myself, you know what, we should put a little bit more effort into this. So I did. And I have to say it's been pretty rewarding, although also I don't know how I feel about some of the people that I meet, because a lot of watercolorists are very old. A lot of watercolorists are ancient. Like, all these watercolor societies are just full of old people. And they all join these watercolor societies to happily put a series of letters next to their name. And they completely price out anyone younger because the fees to join these places are extraordinary. Like, no working artist can actually afford to be a part of this. So, I guess when I first saw that, like, one, I was disappointed because it felt like this is just for rich old people in retirement, not actual working artists. But after I saw that, I said to myself, well, okay, good luck with that, I guess. And I kind of haven't touched any of that ever since. And I remember talking with a man a little while ago who asked if I was a member of any of these societies, if I dabbled in, or if I did any watercolor painting, and I said I do, but I told him I wasn't a member of one of these societies because the memberships are just too exorbitant to bother with, and it doesn't really add anything to your credibility, I don't think. And he said, "Oh, that's a fort." Well, he said that's a shame because these places could use some new blood. And he's not wrong. They could use some new blood, but it's really hard to justify it the way things are right now. Ah, well. Okay. I'm just adding a little bit of Prussian blue to this weird sap mix. Not Prussian blue. I just keep saying, I've been using Prussian blue so much that I just set it on instinct. No, I'm actually adding a little bit of Viridian and the cadmium yellow to this. Trying to get a relatively deep color that I'm looking for right now, and I think I got it. There. This is what it looks like right there. Fascinating series of colors that we're working with right now, guys. Absolutely fascinating. We're probably going to have to wind up taking more than one session on each of these grid squares coming up, because things are getting more and more complicated as we're going. And we're going to have some pretty complicated perspective work as we go. So, I don't know that I'm going to be able to finish this particular square today, is what I'm saying. But we're not going to be lazy about it. We're certainly going to try to do what we can, right? That's the idea, at least. Okay. I just add a little bit more cadmium yellow into the color that we just mixed up, and it's not looking bad. It's looking alright. A few accents here and there will do it good. There. Alright. Let's take this as far as we can, guys. Let's take it as far as we can. I'm going to tear off a piece of this paper towel because it is getting a little dirty. God, it's been so long since I used Viridian. I forgot how good of a color it actually is. Do I like it better than cobalt green? I don't know about that. I'm a big old softy for cobalt green. I actually like the cobalt green that I use in watercolor so much. It's one of my favorite colors ever. I don't know. Just love it, guys. Okay, right about over in here, there's going to be this gray color. This is going to be a tough one because this is kind of a reflection. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, guys. We'll start with, I think, Prussian blue and cadmium red light to get the gray going. That's what my gut's telling me. So, one thing about color mixing and all that is that there's a couple different ways to get yourself to an express gray. Well, you could start with two colors. That's probably one of the easiest ways. And the way I do it a lot of the time is just by going ahead and throwing some Prussian blue and some cadmium red light together and seeing what we get. And usually that color's not bad. You could also use any number of other complements. Like you could use a viridian and a alizarin crimson. You could use an ultramarine blue and maybe a burnt sienna. We haven't used that much burnt sienna, but hey, it might not be a bad idea to start using it and see what we can do with it. Of course, then, once we start doing that, we'll also start introducing more colors into the mix, and that's where light fastness could be an issue. And, you know, it might not be that big of an issue, too. I don't know. It's just, artistic choices are just about weighing your options and seeing what the best one is. That's really what it's all about, guys. And you can't spend all your time worrying about light fastness, because ultimately, if someone's going to put your painting out in the sun, I mean, yeah, I guess it's probably going to fade then, isn't it? Even the sturdiest colors are going to show a little bit of a change if they hang out in the sun for too long. And for all you guys out there who just want to display paintings and whatnot, I mean, I would say don't put them in direct sunlight. If you put them in direct sunlight, you're not going to have a painting for very long. Or at least the painting's going to fade. I say this as someone who's been using Rose Madder Genuine in their watercolors for a while. I should probably stop that. Like, I like the color, but admittedly it's not the most durable color. It's still more durable than, say, alizarin crimson, but well, there's another color I could be using that would probably be better in the long run, at least in terms of like permanence and whatnot. I believe that some gallery directors are hesitant to put some watercolor paintings on display because they're afraid the paintings are just going to fade. They might be right. This is an interesting series of reflections that we're getting going here. I don't know, guys. I don't know. As long as I don't bungle it too hard over here, I think I'm okay. I'm not going to make any promises. I might bungle this pretty badly. Okay, let's put it right. Let's put this right about there. There's a little mark right about there. There's another mark right about here. Okay. Maybe just a little bit of this green color to go right here. This is going to be a series of nonsensical colors, isn't it? Yeah, probably. You know what I'm seeing over here? I'm seeing a little bit of a turquoise color. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Let's take some of the viridian that we've been holding on to. Ooh. Add just a touch of Prussian blue. hopefully it doesn't overpower the Viridian. It might though. No, I don't think it will. Okay. Now we've got a little bit of a teal-ish color. And if we add just a touch of red, here I'm going to add some of the cadmium red medium to this. See how she goes. Okay. If we add just a touch of that to what we're doing, God, cadmium red medium for the first time. I think we'll be somewhere in the ballpark here, what we're looking for. Yeah, I think so. Okay. You know what? Just a small amount more. That's good. Yeah. That's more like it. As I say, sometimes colors are found in the strangest places, guys. Boom. Look at that. One of the most fascinating turquoises you can make, I think, is with Prussian blue and Viridian. Or, depending, you can also use cobalt green and Prussian blue. And either one of those will get you pretty close into the ballpark for one of the most common turquoises that I like to use. And it's not one that I think people use all that often, but it is one that I love so much. I love it so much. It's a very naturalistic turquoise, I think. Not that I'm a master of painting naturalistic color, you know. Not that I necessarily want to paint naturalistic color, because honestly, naturalistic color gets very boring. And that's kind of why I do things the way that I do. Because otherwise, painting gets really dull really fast in 2025. Paintings need to have a little chutzpah in 2025. Paintings need to do things a little bit differently. Well, paintings have needed to do things differently for a very long time. So, I mean, no great surprises there. Alright, should we try to do something with this arm over here? We haven't done anything with the arm yet today. I guess we should maybe try to throw down a flesh tone. Yeah, that might be an idea. Alright, let's get out just a little bit of cerulean blue. A little bit of cerulean blue. This is probably going to be the last thing we do today, because I think we're kind of running out of time for right now. We'll have to come back to these two squares. Like I say, things are getting a little complicated. A smidge complicated. You can also use cadmium red light with the cerulean blue, but because that is a good complement for cadmium red light and cerulean blue. But you don't want to overdo it. Cadmium red light can easily overpower the cerulean blue, guys. So be aware of that, and hopefully that's something that you like. And it'll get you a pretty bruised up, real nice color right there. And it might even be useful for shadow stuff, depending on like what the arm is doing. But don't underestimate cerulean blue. Cerulean blue is a very nice color. Cerulean blue is often the color you want to deal with flesh tone stuff. Prussian blue is less good for that. Now you can get away with ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue is okay. Ultramarine blue is okay for flesh tones. But usually I kind of prefer cerulean blue for this sort of thing. Just cerulean blue has everything that I'm looking for most of the time. It's not too strong. It has the right tone. It Why, it just works, mate. It just works. Yeah, we're definitely running out of time here, so let's do some quick thinking real fast here. And make sure that the arm is in order. As long as we got it like right over, yeah, we pretty much got things right where we want them, so I'm not too worried. Here, let's go ahead and paint this real quick so we have a marker for everything. This is going to be a little bruised up looking, but it'll get the job done. There we go. That's good, guys. That's a good arm. Well, that was productive, I'd say. It took way longer to paint some of those things than I would have thought, but you know, as you paint more complex things, background and foreground, it's just going to take you more time to do it. So you have to accept that not everything is going to be a one and done session on all these tiles that we're working on. But hopefully next time when we come back to it, we're going to get it done. Because I feel like we got a really strong start today. And we've got we even got a lot of colors that we don't normally use in the mix. That was surprising to see. Like Meridian, Cadmium Red Medium. That was incredible. Even Cerulean Blue popped up its head. I don't know that there's a color that went to waste today. Surprise. Yeah, I am surprised. Okay, I think we got our mud color mixed up. And we're just about ready for next time, guys. Let's scrape up some of that mud, put it over there, and we're ready. Alright. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.